let's dive into the wild early days of investment crowdfunding. It was a time when this absolutely game-changing idea for funding small businesses just slammed right into a wall of brand new regulations. It's a fascinating story of ambition, a whole lot of confusion, and some really hard-learned lessons. And really, this is the question at the heart of it all. Just imagine a tool that could completely democratize finance, right? Something that opens up investment for everyone. But to actually use it, you first had to find your way through this crazy labyrinth of complex legal rules. That was the daunting reality for the real pioneers of crowdfunding. So where did this whole revolution even begin? Well, it all kicked off with a landmark piece of legislation that promised to totally reshape the landscape of American business, the Jobs Act. At the heart of this was a truly revolutionary idea. See, for decades, investing in private companies was basically a club for the rich. Only accredited investors, people with super high incomes or net worth, could get in on the action. Regulation crowdfunding, or Reg CF, was designed to just shatter that barrier, letting everyday folks invest in the startups they were actually passionate about. The vision behind it was so simple and elegant. It was this virtuous cycle where entrepreneurs get the funding they desperately need, and everyday investors get a shot at finding the next big thing. It was supposed to be a total win-win, sparking this incredible new wave of American innovation. But as you can probably guess, the road from that dream to reality, well, it was full of some unexpected and pretty expensive detours. And that brings us right to the compliance maze. Because that beautiful, simple dream very quickly collided with a complicated and honestly a really confusing reality. Look, for a huge corporation, this level of paperwork is just another Tuesday. It's business as usual. But for a small startup, we could be talking about just a few people with a great idea. It was an absolute mountain. Most of them didn't have legal teams or financial experts on standby to navigate this dense forest of disclosure forms and filing rules. The learning curve was just incredibly steep. And here's a really critical point that came out of the early SEC investigations. Most of these companies weren't actually committing fraud. They were making technical mistakes. A filing was a day late, they misunderstood a specific rule. The issue wasn't malice, it was just confusion inside a brand new, completely untested system. This quote from a compliance expert just captures the feeling perfectly. These entrepreneurs were pioneers, They were trying to navigate a whole new world with an incomplete map and pretty much no guide. Now, to really see these challenges in action, let's zoom in on a case that became a huge flashpoint for the entire industry, Punch TV Studios. Punch TV was this aspiring media company, and they were really eager to use crowdfunding to build a whole new television network. But their attempt to navigate these new rules would soon put them directly in the crosshairs of regulators and right at the center of a superheated debate. And opinions on what happened next are, well, they're fierce. The legal group ICANN Law, for example, didn't just see Punch TV as a company that made a few mistakes. No, they framed it as a prime example of regulatory overreach, arguing the SEC was unfairly punishing a company that was just trying to play by the new rules. This perspective really gets to the core attention of this entire story. And that case really forces us to ask a much bigger question about the role regulators should play in a brand new, innovative market. Was this about protecting investors, or was it about punishing the pioneers? It all boils down to this. On one hand, you absolutely need strong enforcement to protect investors from potential fraud. But on the other hand, you risk crushing the very innovation the law was designed to create in the first place. So where do you draw that line? So let's look at the two sides of this coin. Proponents of the SEC's actions said, look, this was a necessary deterrent. By coming down hard and early, they established clear boundaries and sent a powerful message that compliance was not optional and that ultimately protected investors. But the critics saw it as regulatory overreach. They argued that these actions were just punishing companies for honest mistakes made while trying to figure out confusing new laws. They worried it would scare other entrepreneurs away from crowdfunding altogether, and that the focus should have been on clearer guidance first, not just penalties. So, no matter which side of that debate you land on, one thing is absolutely certain. The struggles of these early pioneers provided an incredibly valuable roadmap for every single person who came after them. So why does this history really matter now? It's because every single company that stumbled in those early days helped pave the road for today's much smoother, multi-billion-dollar crowdfunding industry. Their mistakes literally became the building blocks for today's best practices. So, what's the actionable playbook here? For any company thinking about crowdfunding today, the lessons are crystal clear. First off, build compliance into your business plan from day one. Don't treat it as an afterthought. Second, find legal counsel that actually specializes in this unique area of law. This is not the time for a generalist. And finally, remember the spirit of these rules. They exist to protect investors. If you embrace transparency, you won't just stay compliant, you'll build something even more valuable: trust. And this brings us to our final thought. That tension between fostering innovation and enforcing regulation, it didn't end with the early days of crowdfunding, not at all. It's a constant balancing act we see in every emerging industry, from AI to crypto. The story of these crowdfunding pioneers serves as this powerful reminder of the stakes involved, and it leaves us with a question that is more relevant than ever. Where exactly should we draw that line today?